Basically, any woman Jake spoke to always fell for his charms. This was the first time he met a girl who looked so fresh in a bar. She was a natural beauty, without any sign of makeup. How could he give up? "Trust me, all the women love me," Jake said confidently. Lucia asked in confusion, "Why?" "Because I'm handsome." Jake deliberately leaned towards Lucia. Cole couldn't watch any longer. "Hey, Lucia, stay away from that guy." Before he could finish, Lucia held up her hand to stop him. Cole stared at Lucia in disbelief. "How handsome are you?" Lucia asked Jake. "Do you want a closer look?" Jake's eyes were filled with desire as his eyes roamed over Lucia's body. His meaning could not have been clearer. "All right." Lucia finished the wine in her glass and immediately agreed. She placed the glass on the bar and said, "You can pay for my tab before we go." Jake paid for the drinks and left the bar with Lucia. She turned around to tell Cole, "Go back home. Be careful." "Lucia, you're going crazy from drinking too much." Cole stepped forward to pull Lucia away, but was stopped by a man standing beside him. Cole couldn't force his way through. He took a cup and smashed it onto the man's shoulder. The man's good-natured expression immediately turned foul. "You're crazy." He raised his hand and was about to punch Cole. However, before his fist could land, it was intercepted in midair. Cole turned around and saw Spencer. Why are you here?" Cole stammered. Spencer didn't say anything and just shook the man off. Cole no longer cared about the man who had bothered him. He still hadn't recovered from the shock of Spencer's appearance. Was Dalen here? Lucia went to get a room with another man. But she probably hadn't made it far. Lucia was on her way to a room with Jake and she could feel her spirits rising. But she had drank too much, and her body finally reacted. She was blushing and dizzy. She started to sway, but someone came to help support her. "Can you still walk? How about I carry you?" Jake asked. Did he want to take advantage of her? Dream on. Lucia pushed him away. "What's the rush? I can walk." "Then can you walk by yourself?" "Of course." But Lucia just staggered forward. That's not right. That's the bathroom. This is the elevator." Jake quickly pulled her back. Lucia turned around and walked towards the elevator. The elevator door hadn't opened yet, so Lucia leaned against it weakly. She wanted to conserve her strength. Jake didn't know what Lucia was thinking. His mouth drooled as he looked at Lucia. He was thinking about what would happen if he waited for her to pass out. The elevator door opened. Lucia tried to walk in the elevator, but her left foot hooked around her right foot, and she tripped forward. All of a sudden, she was in the arms of the person inside the elevator. She looked up and saw it was Dalen. He was expressionless as he looked at Jake, who was about to enter the elevator. Then he kicked Jake in the stomach and sent him folding down outside the elevator. "Ugh!" The elevator doors slowly closed with a miserable scream. Lucia's mind was trying to catch up with her eyes. Was Dalen really here? "Are you having fun?" His cold voice came crashing down on her. Lucia weakly lifted her heavy head, and she looked at Dalen's clearly carved face with a dazed and intoxicated look. "It's better to be drunk. There's less pain." Lucia smiled as tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. Suddenly, she unceremoniously grabbed Dalen's collar and asked, "Don't you think so? Why aren't you talking? Don't you want to talk to me?" Dalen's expression was cold as he looked at Lucia. Lucia did not get a reply. She lowered her head and rested it on Dalen's body. "I say, your heart is beating so fast," she said. Dalen stiffened and pushed Lucia away. "Ugh!" Lucia, who had relied on Dalen to stay standing, fell backwards. Dalen's expression was tense as he stepped forward and grabbed her waist. Lucia bounced back into the safety of Dalen's chest. Her hands clung to Dalen's broad shoulders. Dalen was extremely tense and did not move at all. He knew he shouldn't care about her, but he had to help her. Was she on her way to a room with another man? Dalen's expression was extremely dark. Dalen brought Lucia into a room, but Lucia still didn't let go and just laid in Dalen's arms. He pushed on Lucia's shoulder. However, he suddenly stopped when he realized Lucia was crying. Tears fell down one by one onto Dalen's shoulder, the shirt on his chest, and even into his heart. Lucia kept her head down and cried, "Do you hate me now? I'm sorry. I don't know why this happened. You're right not to like me. I'm not worth it. But you still haven't explained it to me. How could I know what you were thinking? I don't know what you want from me." At this point, Lucia couldn't even make a sound. Dalen cupped his hand on Lucia's lower jaw and made her look up at him. Her face was streaked with tears, and eyes puffed up with a pool of tears ready to stream down her rose-tainted cheeks. "Who am I? Who are you talking to?" Dalen's eyes seemed to reach into the depths of Lucia's soul. "You." Lucia had been drunk to begin with, but now, with tears in her eyes, she could no longer see clearly. She felt that the person in front of her was just a blob, which made her even more confused. "Who am I?" Dalen asked. You are, I don't know, I can't see clearly," Lucia stammered. Dalen's expression turned sharp. "You can't see me clearly, nor can you hear me?" Why are you so angry?" Lucia frowned. "Who did you come here with?" Dalen asked coldly. I didn't?" Lucia asked. "Where am I?" Dalen didn't respond. "I'm done with this game. I'm going to sleep." Lucia let go of Dalen's hand and turned around to leave. However, she was pulled back by Dalen. Lucia fell against Dalen's chest once again. "Who are you in love with?" Dalen asked. Lucia helplessly blinked her eyes. She looked at Dalen in confusion. However, she did not hesitate to say, "You." After Lucia finished speaking, she immediately fell asleep on Dalen's body. Earlier, he had asked Lucia who he was, but she said that she didn't know, so Dalen still wasn't sure what her answer meant. When Lucia woke up, she was completely lost. What was going on? Where is this place? Was she drunk? The clothes on her body were still there. There was no one beside her. Why wasn't Cole there? Lucia suddenly remembered that she had flirted with a man last night. And then gone back to his room? And then what? At this moment, Lucia was in a daze. When she saw her shoulder bag on the sofa, she immediately got up and took out her phone. There was Cole's missed call. Lucia immediately called him back. "You finally called me back," Cole said. "Where are you now?" "It's almost 10. I'm at the company." Cole was already at work. He was different from Lucia. He was one of those hard-working, responsible people. "So what happened last night?" Lucia asked. "What happened? You don't remember?" "I remember a little. I left with some guy, right?" "That was a bad idea." "Why didn't you stop me?" Lucia stomped her feet. "You told me to get lost." Cole shrugged. "But you knew that I drank too much and my mind was in a mess. Did you seriously desert me?" "Not exactly. I met Spencer in the bar. Did you run into Dalen?" "Dalen? Eh?" Lucia was stunned. Why was he here? "Do you always lose your memory like this when you drink?" Cole knew that Dalen must have been there and found Lucia. Why else would Spencer be there? Was it just a coincidence? However, Lucia was even more unconvinced than he was. I have no memory at all. I don't think Dalen was here. Maybe you just met Spencer on his night off. Lucia hung up the phone and wandered around the room in annoyance, trying to find any trace of Dalen. However, she didn't see anything. Lucia's gaze finally landed on her shoulder bag. She was so drunk, but did she still have the brains to put her bag on the sofa? Probably not. So Lucia was sure that someone had entered the room with her. But who? Was it that strange man? Or Dalen? It was almost lunchtime when she arrived at the company. I'll treat you to a meal, Cole said. Lucia was taken aback. Why? Did you do something mean to me last night? When have I been mean to you? Are you going to eat with me or not? Of course I'll come, Lucia said. The two of them found a restaurant to eat in. Lucia stared at the scenery outside the window with a bored expression, looking at the passing cars and people. Her head was still dizzy from the hangover. She couldn't even muster up any energy. When she turned back around, Cole was staring at her. What? Lucia asked. You really don't remember last night at all? Cole asked. Lucia shook her head. Then you and that strange man didn't... Nope. She had still been wearing her clothes when she woke up. It didn't make sense. That's good. Lucia thought for a moment, then asked Cole, You think Dalen appeared last night? Is that possible? Why not? Cole shrugged. What do you mean? Cole analyzed to her. Think about it. The bar we went to last night is small and run down. Do you think Dalen would go to that kind of place? But you didn't see Dalen. I saw Spencer, and he is Dalen's bodyguard. What if Spencer went there to handle personal matters? Lucia asked. Cole just rolled his eyes. Why didn't you ask Spencer? Lucia asked. I tried, but he was as cold as ice and didn't say a word. Lucia's head hurt even more as she mumbled, How strange. Who are you calling strange? You. They finished eating and left the restaurant. When she left the company, Lucia felt a gust of wind blowing into her collar, making her shiver. Why is it so cold? It's winter. Of course it's cold, Cole said, wrapping his coat tightly around him. Lucia shivered in the cold wind. I didn't notice. I wonder if it will snow this year. It rarely snows here, Cole remarked. I remember when I was still in school and it snowed once, a pretty thick layer. Lucia's face was filled with yearning. You want to see the snow? More than anything. Lucia returned to the silent mansion. She had never felt this way before when Dalen was around. Dalen's mood usually permeated through the whole mansion, but now it felt deserted and cold. Fortunately, Victoria wasn't here anymore, so she didn't need to worry about her. The next morning, Lucia suddenly felt her stomach churning. She immediately jumped off the bed and rushed into the washroom. With her head over the toilet, she vomited. Why did she feel so sick? After vomiting, she felt much better. Seeing that it was about time to get up anyways, she washed her face and rinsed her mouth before going downstairs. Young madame, why do you look so pale? Is there something wrong? John immediately asked upon seeing her. There's something wrong with my stomach. I wonder if I ate something bad. Young madame, you must have eaten something unclean. Next time you can't eat at sketchy bars. We can cook anything you want in the kitchen, John said anxiously. Lucia did not expect John to treat her so well after knowing that she had let Dalen down. This kind of concern made her feel even more guilty. I'll call the doctor to take a look, John said. No need, I'm fine now. Don't tell anyone about my stomach, Lucia instructed. Why? I'm feeling fine now, so there's naturally no need to say anything. Actually, Lucia just didn't want Dalen to know. She didn't want Dalen to think that she was trying to attract his attention because her body wasn't feeling well. Lucia had no appetite for breakfast, However, she was worried that John would worry about her, so she ate all the breakfast as if nothing had happened. After leaving the mansion, Lucia vomited again. Did she really eat something bad? Lucia, you don't look too good. What's wrong? Cole asked when she showed up for work. He could see it too. Did you feel sick this morning? Lucia asked. No. Are you not feeling well? Lucia collapsed on the sofa. I vomited twice in the morning. I don't feel well. Is it serious? Why don't we go to the hospital to take a look? Cole asked. There's no need for that, right? If you eat bad food, you can just go to the pharmacy and buy some medicine, right? Or just wait it out, Lucia said. Then I'll buy medicine for you, Cole said as he prepared to go. Wait, I'll go with you. Lucia and Cole went to a pharmacy not far from the office. What kind of medicine? The shop owner asked. Cole said on behalf of Lucia, she got up in the morning vomiting and her stomach is still unsettled. It must have been caused by bad food last night. The pharmacist looked at the dispirited Lucia. With a hint of diagnosis in her eyes, she asked, Have you had your period? Lucia was stunned by the question. She recalled and said, It's late. How many days? About a week. What's wrong? The pharmacist gave her the stomach medicine, but also took out a box of something and said, This is a pregnancy test. If you don't get a positive result, then take the stomach medicine. Lucia was so scared that her hands started to tremble. She fell against the counter. Cole became angry when he heard that. How can you say that? It's obvious that her stomach is not feeling well because she's just sick. You could go to the hospital to be sure. It is not good for the fetus if you take certain kinds of medicine, so you should make sure. If you really don't believe me, then go to the hospital and they can have a look, the pharmacist suggested. Lucia lowered her gaze and clenched her fists. Her nails were pinching painfully into her palms. Lucia didn't take anything and just turned around and left. Lucia! Cole took a look at the medicine and chased after her irritably. She stood there motionlessly as soon as Cole caught up with her. Cole didn't dare to speak loudly. Lucia, could I seriously be pregnant? She interrupted. Don't listen to her. How could you possibly be pregnant? It was just that one time. What are the chances? Lucia's eyes overflowed with tears of panic as she said, I've waited for my period for so long. This has never happened before. It wasn't until the pharmacist mentioned her period that she remembered. Otherwise, she wouldn't have noticed. Isn't it normal to sometimes have your period late? You've been under all sorts of mental pressure. Besides, you've been so upset lately. It doesn't mean that you're pregnant. Cole tried to be optimistic. Lucia covered her eyes with her hands. However, she could not hide her tears. Cole's heart ached. Lucia, believe me, you're not pregnant, but we can go to the hospital right now to make sure. I'll come with you. With that, Cole pulled Lucia's hand, wanting to drag her to the hospital for an examination. However, Lucia pulled back her hand, unwilling to go. Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Lucia asked sadly. Lucia, calm down. Nothing is certain. If you don't want to go to the hospital, then I'll go back and buy you a test. When Lucia didn't say anything, Cole took it as an agreement. He then turned around and went to the pharmacy to buy the test. By the time he returned with the pregnancy test, though, Lucia was gone. Cole was so shocked that he quickly called her. She answered the call. Lucia, where are you? Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Where did you run off to? Cole asked anxiously. I'm fine. I want to be alone. Then where did you go? I'm walking around. I'll go back to the office by myself later. Lucia's voice was weak. Really? You'll be back soon? Yes, I will be fine. But Cole was skeptical. Cole was speechless. Could Lucia really be pregnant? Lucia stared blankly at the road ahead. Was she really pregnant? With Axel's child? She never wanted this. Wouldn't it have been fine if she had married Axel at that wedding? Dalen would only be her big brother, and she would be happy. But now, just when she realized that she loved Dalen, she found out she was pregnant with Axel's child. How ridiculous! First, she wanted to marry Axel, but ended up marrying Dalen instead. And now, when she realized she was in love with Dalen, she was pregnant with Axel's baby? Life couldn't have been funnier. Lucia stopped, hesitant. It was the same mall she had been to with Dalen earlier. The interior was still the same as before. However, her memories were still stuck on the way she felt when she was with Dalen. She remembered every detail. Why did she remember it so clearly? Lucia walked over to the place where Dalen had bought her the wolfhound pendant. She went into the shop and walked around, but did not see anything like it. "Can I help you?" the salesperson asked when he saw her looking for something. "I remember you had a crystal wolfhound here, right?" Lucia asked. "Oh, that one. Our store is no longer selling them now," the sales rep answered. "Why?" "Because earlier there was a man who bought all of our wolfhound's accessories. He said that our store cannot sell anymore in the future." Lucia was stunned. At that time, she left the store together with Dalen. If that was really the case, she didn't even notice. "Then let me look at something else," Lucia said, as she watched the sales rep walk away. The hand in her pocket could not control itself. Especially when she thought about how she might be pregnant, she felt even more uneasy and panicked. She just wanted to steal something. Lucia tried hard to control herself. Wasn't she supposed to be free of this disease? Why was it happening again? Lucia took a piece of jewelry when no one was looking and put it in her pocket. She left with her head lowered after her pockets were full. However, after walking not too far, she was stopped by some security guards. "Did you steal something?" the security guard asked. Lucia denied it. "I didn't." But she looked nervous and guilty. "It's her. She's the one who stole something from our store." The sales rep behind her caught up. "I saw it clearly on the monitor. It was her." Lucia didn't expect to be discovered. Her hand, which was in her pocket, was pulled by the security, and the jewelry inside fell out. "Look, I knew she stole it." Lucia turned around to run, but was stopped by the security guards. "Come with us." She was taken to the police station. Lucia nervously sat in the lobby of the police station, being interrogated. There was a man next to her who was being interrogated. His crime was also stealing things. He crossed his legs smugly, as if he wasn't in the police station but in his house. When he noticed Lucia's gaze, the man turned and gave her a wink. Lucia looked away in disgust. "So, you're a thief. How despicable." The officer sat across from her and spoke sharply. Lucia remained silent. "Tell me, how many times has it been?" Lucia didn't say. She lowered her head. "Why? Is it hard to count? At this point, I hope you can speak the truth." The officer's tone was harsh. "4 times," Lucia muttered under her breath. "Are you sure?" "I guess 5 times now." The officer checked the computer records and said, "How come there's no record of you?" "The first 4 times I wasn't caught." "Really?" The officer looked skeptical. Lucia felt that she had gone too far with her words, so she lowered her head. "So you're saying that if we didn't catch you this time, you would have continued stealing?" The police officer had never seen such a good-looking person be such an unrepentant thief. The officer looked at her coldly and went back to his work. Lucia just sat there waiting. She waited a long time, but no one else came to question her. It was Spencer who came. Lucia looked at Spencer in shock. She saw a familiar car in the road outside the glass door. "Let's go," Spencer said. "Just like that?" Lucia asked. "Yes," Spencer said. Lucia followed Spencer out of the police station. She looked at the car, her heart trembling. The car was completely black. Even the windows had a dark tint that made it impossible to see inside. Lucia was thinking, should she really get in the car? Would Dalen be willing to let her ride with him? However, Spencer opened the car door for her, so she had no choice. The interior of the car was dim compared to the outside. All in all, it was so depressing. Lucia walked over to the car door and stood in front of it. She met Dalen's dark eyes and said, "I don't." "Are you waiting for an invitation?" he asked. Lucia, who had been interrupted, didn't say anything else. She got in the car with her head lowered. The door closed, and the car left the police station. There was a stifling silence. Lucia couldn't take the silence anymore and said, "I thought I had already recovered, but I didn't expect that I would still steal something. I'm sorry for the trouble." Seeing Dalen's cold expression, Lucia continued, "Actually, the police officer inside was prepared to let me out, but Spencer just appeared. I expect you to come save me, but in the future—" "Why did you steal?" Dalen asked. Lucia looked over at him. His features were sharp and clear, and his eyes were deep and sharp. Why did she steal? Dalen looked so upset that Lucia forgot the reason for her stealing. Dalen's eyes were so sharp. Could he tell that she was pregnant? "Why? Is it the office or a personal problem?" Dalen's words were sharp. Lucia was cornered with no way out. She was unable to answer Dalen's question. What would happen if Dalen knew that she was pregnant with Axel's child? "Can you hear me?" Dalen's voice was as cold as an icehouse. He no longer had any patience. Lucia trembled. "Personal issues," she stammered. "What issues?" Dalen persisted. Lucia opened her mouth to speak, and then she said, "What happened between me and Axel was an accident. You've made me feel cold and detached and a lot of things." "You think I'm cold?" Dalen asked as he stared at Lucia's lowered face. "I know I don't have the right to say that. I don't have any other intentions. I'm just speaking the truth." Lucia lowered her head and did not get a response from Dalen. She did not speak, and the car fell silent again. The entire way home, neither of them spoke again, until the car stopped. Lucia looked out the window and saw that they were outside her office. Spencer opened the car door to help Lucia out. "I'll pick you up after work," Dalen said. Lucia's back stiffened. When she turned around, the car had already left. "Dalen, this is—" "What do you mean? Why would he pick her up? Wasn't he ignoring her? Why?" Lucia could not understand. "Lucia!" Cole ran out. She came back to her senses and asked, "You want to go out?" "I was worried about you, so I went downstairs to check on you. That was Dalen's car just now, right? I saw it all," Cole said. Lucia shot a glance at Cole, but didn't say anything as she walked back into the office. "What's wrong? Dalen wouldn't send you to the office for no reason, right? How did you meet him? Did you go looking for him?" Cole asked, but he couldn't quite believe Lucia would do that. After all, something had made her cry. If Dalen sent Lucia back to work, then perhaps something even more terrifying was coming, right? "No, I met him on the way. It was a coincidence," Lucia said. Cole sat down beside her and said seriously, "Considering how Dalen is acting, he definitely wants to continue being with you. If he doesn't mind what happened with you, why don't you just try to move on and find peace with him instead? Why are you running away from him?" "I can't do it," Lucia said. "After what happened with Axel, I don't have the right to stay in this marriage at all." "How come? It was an accident, just like that car accident you were in some time ago. I know what you're thinking right now. You go and do a test, and if you're pregnant, I'm not going to say anything." Pregnancy test? Lucia had always been bold and audacious, but now she wasn't feeling very brave. She wanted to deceive herself and act as if nothing had happened. But if the child did exist, how could she turn a blind eye? "Lucia, Go to the bathroom and take a test. I've already read the manual. It will only take a few minutes, Cole said. Lucia wasn't ready to face the consequences just yet. Let's talk later. Maybe in a couple days my period will start. I'm sure we are panicking for no reason. Cole looked at her. Was she trying to avoid it? After work, Lucia walked out of the office, but her footsteps paused. At the door, Dalen's car and the bodyguard's car were waiting. The car door opened and she got in. Lucia didn't know why Dalen came to pick her up. Could it really be as Cole had said, to be with her? But how could Lucia do that with so much guilt? There was a good chance that she's pregnant. Only by staying far away could betrayal be minimized. Dalen didn't say anything all the way to the mansion. When they entered the hall, Edward was more composed, while John's expression was more exaggerated. John looked at Dalen and Lucia in shock. When he realized that he shouldn't be making such an expression, he mastered it back into a straight face. At the dinner table, Lucia looked at the delicious food and felt a wave of nausea in her stomach. Lucia knew that if she ate, she would definitely vomit. Then, Dalen would suspect that something was wrong with her body. What would he think if the doctor came and examined her and found out that she was pregnant? When Dalen looked over at her with a sharp gaze, Lucia still put down the tableware in her hands. I'm sorry, I don't have an appetite. Lucia could feel that Dalen's mood changed after she finished her sentence. Why don't you have an appetite? She remained silent. It was as if the air in the dining room was going to freeze over. Lucia didn't dare to answer Dalen's question. She only said, I'm sorry, I really don't want to eat. Then don't eat, Dalen roared. With a wave of his hand, most of the dishes on the table were swept away. Then there was the sound of a bowl and plate crashing to the floor. Food and glass went everywhere. Lucia froze on her chair. Her heart was beating so fast that it wanted to jump out of her chest. Edward and John, who were serving, were also scared out of their wits. They didn't even dare to send people to clean up the mess on the ground. The floor was a complete mess. Do you want me to bring Axel to eat with you? The anger in Dalen's heart was mixed with jealousy, and it almost seemed as if his entire body was on fire. The more he felt jealous, the colder his face became. Lucia sat on the chair and couldn't move. She felt like the debris on the ground. I didn't say that. I'm just not hungry. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, Dalen pulled Lucia toward him. She hit his chest and faced Dalen, who was in a rage. Lucia felt as though she would pass out. Why don't you want to eat? Give me a reason. Dalen wanted an answer. Let me go. Lucia struggled. I already said I don't want to eat, so what else is there to say? Dalen's black eyes were staring at Lucia viciously. Lucia's watery eyes shone with sparkling and translucent tears as she said, No matter what you do to me, I won't blame you. Really, I never felt like I was good enough for you. Even if you did something to me, I would never blame it on you. How could I? Dalen stared at Lucia. He knew he could strangle her to death with a little force. She deserved to die. The people around him were absolutely terrified. John put aside his fears and hastily said, Mr. Patrick, young madame is really uncomfortable. In the morning, she was all pale. I asked the young lady to see a doctor, but she refused. Sir, it's not that the young madame does not want to eat with you. It's because she's really not feeling well. That's why she said that. Dalen's violent gaze was stunned. Lucia also did not expect John to suddenly say that. When she felt the grip loosen, she took the opportunity to take 2 steps back. I'm already feeling much better. There's no need to make such a fuss. She turned and ran out of the dining room. Dalen stood there stiffly. His voice was low and frightening. Why didn't anyone say anything? John answered, I'm sorry, sir. It was Lucia who did not allow me to say it. I didn't even tell Edward. In the morning, I saw that she was weak and pale, but she said that she had eaten out of a sketchy bar the day before and that her stomach was not well, and that it would soon be all right. She thought that she would be fine after returning in the evening. Sir, should I call for a doctor to come over now? Obviously, Dalen shouted. Yes, sir. John immediately went to make a call. When Lucia returned to her room, she sat on the sofa in a daze. Did she feel wronged? Not really. However, she knew that John would spill her secret eventually. She should have threatened him not to that morning. She just hoped that Dalen wouldn't take it seriously. Lucia didn't want to face Dalen anymore. At this moment, she would rather that Dalen was not in the mansion. Lucia didn't understand. Why did he suddenly change his behavior? Could it be that something really happened in the bar? Lucia sat on the sofa for a long time before she stood up to take a bath. After showering, she went to bed. She tried to think of nothing, do nothing. Her head was empty. She felt that she could not bear to think about anything anymore. When Lucia was about to drift off, a knock on the door woke her back up. Madame, the doctor is here. Lucia was so frightened that she sat up in bed. Flustered, she got out of bed. She walked to the door and asked, Who did you say is here? It's Mr. Patrick's doctor, John said. I'm fine, I don't want to see a doctor. Lucia rejected him flatly. But madame, it's better to take a look. I won't. Let the doctor go home. Lucia raised her voice and said irritably. Then she locked the door. I'm going to bed. Don't bother me. I won't see a doctor. With that, Lucia turned and walked back to her bed. Her heart was beating erratically. This must be Dalen's orders. Otherwise, why call a doctor about something so trivial? Why did he call her a doctor when he was still in a rage? Lucia was so nervous that her heart almost couldn't take it anymore. Then she heard the sound of the door opening. Lucia was stunned. Didn't she lock the door? She turned around and saw Dalen walk in. His black eyes landed on Lucia's face. With a cold expression and a commanding tone, he ordered, Check her. The doctor behind him was about to step forward. Lucia immediately pointed at the doctor. Don't you dare touch me. I already said I'm fine. Why do you have to check? I just ate bad food. Can't I just rest for 2 days? Dalen, why are you so disrespectful to me? You want to talk about respect? Dalen's eyes were cold and indifferent, as if what Lucia said was completely insane. Lucia knew that Dalen was strong, so she couldn't defy him. Can't you let her check you? Dalen said in a cold and dignified voice. No, if you really think I'm not well, then tell the doctor to prescribe some stomach medicine. Dalen's expression turned grim. Lucia flew into a rage. If I say no, then I mean no. Let the doctor go. I don't want to see her. If the doctor doesn't leave, I'll leave. All right? With a cold expression, Dalen said, You either let the doctor in or eat dinner. Choose for yourself. I don't want to see a doctor, and I don't want to eat. Lucia turned around and ran in the closet. She had to get dressed to get out of here. She couldn't just walk away in her pajamas. Just as she reached for her clothes, her wrist was grabbed and pressed against the mirror. What are you doing? Lucia wanted to pull back her hand, but Dalen's strength was so strong that it felt like she was nailed to the wall. Dalen grabbed her other hand and fixed his eyes on Lucia. What do you think I'm going to do? I wish I could tear you apart. Lucia opened her mouth to speak, but she couldn't say a word. Lucia didn't want the relationship between the two to continue like this. She wanted to fix it. She freed one hand and tried to push Dalen away. Not only did Dalen not let go of her, he pressed down on her even more. Dalen's breath was low, and he only had one thought in his mind. Lucia's heart ached, and tears streaked down her face. This made her heart ache even more. Why did you do it? A hurricane swirled in Dalen's dark eyes. and he stepped back, releasing Lucia. It was an accident. That's not true. You have always pined for Axel. Dalen approached Lucia step by step. Lucia's body went limp, sliding along the surface of the mirror until she reached the ground. Yes, I exist for him. Just please don't. Lucia broke down and more tears fell. Dalen squatted down in front of her, and Lucia raised her chin and looked into his eyes. Dalen spoke in a low and hoarse voice, as if he had been torn apart. Do you like him that much? Lucia did not speak, only her tears flowed silently. It's unfortunate that I'm the one you married then. Like a fool, I wanted to make you like me, said Dalen as he left. Lucia's tense nerves loosened. Her strength seemed to have been sucked out of her. She leaned against the mirror. She didn't know what she had just said. Dalen's words were the only thing she heard. Each and every word sent shivers down her spine. Why didn't Dalen mention divorce? He didn't want her to like Axel, so he would trap her in a loveless marriage? After sitting for a long time, she got up and walked out of the closet. Dalen was gone, and the doctor would no longer be forced to examine her body. Did this count as a narrow escape? When Lucia woke up the next morning, the sun had already risen. She walked from her bedroom to the dining room and sat down at the table. She didn't see Dalen, but she noticed the guilty look in John's eyes. Lucia ate 2 mouthfuls of food as she looked at John. You've been staring at me the whole time. What's wrong? Is your stomach bitter now? John asked. Much better. It's all right now. Although Lucia's stomach still felt unwell, she was glad that she didn't throw up this morning. I'm sorry, Ma'am. I promised that I wouldn't tell anyone about your illness. But yesterday's... If you do not continue... John found it hard to say anything. I know that you did that for my own good. It's not like I'm going to blame you, Lucia said. John only said that because he was worried about her. Madame, Mr. Patrick left last night. John saw Lucia's heart break. John had thought the two of them were almost reconciled after Mr. Patrick had called for a doctor. Why did his attitude suddenly turn so terrible? Lucia listened to John's explanation without saying a word and ate her breakfast in silence. If she didn't see Dalen in the morning, then would he be gone tonight too? What could Lucia say or do to fix this? Time and again, she kept forcing them farther apart. When Lucia walked into work, Cole asked, Lucia, why did you come to work? Did you push Dalen away again? Lucia thought, with Dalen's physique, how could I move him? She said, I have work to do, and sat down at her desk and leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. Cole looked at her. Was this considered working? She acts like sleeping is one of her jobs. Lucia, if you want to sleep, just lie down. Why don't you sleep on the sofa? That way it'll be more comfortable, Cole said. True. Lucia stood up, walked to the sofa, and laid down on it. Not long after that, she fell asleep. Cole thought that it seemed like Dalen and Lucia did not have a reconciliation. He found a blanket and covered Lucia with it. Lucia was sleeping soundly when she was shocked awake by the ringing of her cell phone. What is it? Lucia tried to sit up, but forgot that she was sitting on a sofa, not a bed, so she rolled to the ground. Ouch! When Cole heard the commotion, he ran in and saw Lucia, who was rubbing her elbow. He tried to suppress his laughter. Who's calling me at this time? Lucia took the phone. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. She answered with a puzzled expression. Who is it? My face has been destroyed, but can you hear my voice? Hello? A voice came from the other end of the phone. Lucia frowned and asked, Bianca? Yes, it's me. Lucia felt goosebumps all over her body when she heard her voice. Why would Bianca call her? When Cole heard the name Bianca, he stopped in his tracks and walked back towards Lucia's desk. "Why are you looking for me?" Lucia asked Bianca. "I'm going to kill Dalen," Bianca said. "Do you have the guts to do that?" Although Lucia said this, her heart started beating erratically. "I know Dalen's mood has been abnormal recently. He no longer cares about his safety. This is the best time for me to do something to make him pay," Bianca said in a relaxed tone. "Don't act recklessly. If you have anyone to blame, it's me." Lucia tried to steady herself, but her nervousness betrayed her. "You? Why should I attack you? It was Dalen who ruined me. Even if I wanted to seek revenge, I wouldn't seek you out," Bianca said. "Haven't you always disliked me?" Bianca's face turned blue. "No matter how much you provoke me, I still want to kill Dalen. Only by killing him can I let go of the hatred in my heart. Do you want to know where Dalen is now? He was in a bar all last night, and he hasn't come out yet. Tell me, did he find a woman?" Bianca purposely said this to provoke Lucia. However, Lucia was still trying to decide if she could believe Bianca. "In order to kill Dalen, I even asked someone to teach me how to shoot. After all, I can't be near Dalen." Bianca's voice sounded very happy. "Bianca, are you crazy?" "Yes, I am crazy. If it was your life he had ruined like he did mine, would you pretend that nothing had happened, huh?" "Then I'll help you," Lucia said without hesitation. "I don't want your help. I want Dalen's life!" Bianca shrieked. "Bianca, you won't be able to kill him. You'll just bring yourself more pain." Lucia wasn't threatening her. She knew enough about Dalen's methods. Bianca paused for a moment, then said, "Do you think I care? With my face ruined, I could care less about my life. And don't even think about informing Dalen about my plans, because if I can't kill him today, I can still kill him tomorrow. If I can't kill him tomorrow, I can still kill him the day after. Besides, do you think Dalen would believe you?" Lucia would not listen to this crazy woman's nonsense. She directly hung up the phone. Cole stood off to the side, waiting for a long time without a word. After Lucia hung up the phone, he immediately asked, "What did Bianca want?" Lucia ignored Cole and called Dalen. She knew how bad the two of them had left things last night, but thinking about Dalen's safety, she couldn't care so much anymore. Bianca had gone mad. She had to take it seriously. However, she called twice and was immediately sent to voicemail. Dalen was upstairs in the bar when Lucia called him and directly pressed decline call. With a cold face, he went to the bathroom. "Why didn't Dalen pick up my call?" Lucia asked Cole in confusion. Cole thought to himself, "Why do you think?" Lucia continued, "Although we're fighting, he should still answer. What if I have something important to talk to him about?" Lucia kept on calling Dalen, becoming more flustered and anxious. She had no choice but to call Spencer. Spencer, who was standing guard outside Dalen's door, picked up the call when he saw the caller ID. Lucia immediately said, "Spencer, Bianca wants to kill Dalen." "Bianca?" Spencer asked. "Yes, where are you now?" "The Royal Bar." Lucia was stunned. He was really at a bar? "Bianca might be in the bar too. She has a gun on her and wants to kill Dalen," Lucia warned. Spencer knew Lucia wouldn't make up something like this for no reason. But did Bianca really have the ability to kill Dalen? After hanging up, Spencer sent someone to check if Bianca was hiding out. Lucia waited anxiously for Spencer to call her back. When her phone rang, she immediately answered. "How was it? Did you catch her?" "We've checked inside and outside. There's no one suspicious," Spencer replied. Could it be that Bianca is bluffing? Probably. A few seconds after Lucia hung up, her phone rang again. It was Bianca. "You called Dalen? Did you seriously think it would help? He can't find me. I'm still in the bar." Bianca's complacent laughter was heard. "Is something funny?" Lucia said coldly. "Funny? Lucia, why don't you come to the bar yourself? I'll give you 10 minutes. If you get to the bar in 10 minutes, I won't kill him. If you don't, I will definitely kill Dalen." With that, Bianca hung up. Lucia's cell phone was still pressed against her ear as she stared blankly into space. Then she picked up her bag and ran out of the office. "Lucia, where are you going?" Cole snapped out of his daze and followed. "Lucia, wait, I'll go with you." By the time Cole reached the bottom of the stairs, Lucia had already boarded a taxi. Regardless of whether what Bianca said was true or not, she had to find Dalen. After Bianca's call, her mood was very unsettled. She could tell something bad was about to happen. She knew that no matter what, she would never let Dalen get hurt if she could help him. "Driver, please go faster, faster!" Lucia urged the taxi driver. "This is already the fastest I can go," he responded. "If you can get to the Royal within 10 minutes, I'll give you $1,000. As soon as Lucia finished her sentence, the driver stepped on the gas pedal and Lucia fell backwards against the seat. When they arrived at the bar, the driver slammed on the brakes and said, 9 minutes. Lucia hurriedly said, "I'll give it to you later." "Wait, you're good for the money, right?" The driver eyed her suspiciously. "No way." Lucia slammed the door and ran into the bar. The bar was silent. Only a few of the staff were there cleaning up the wreckage left behind by last night's rowdy customers. Lucia stood there and looked around. There was no sign of Bianca. Lucia had a strange feeling as she stood in the empty bar. Something didn't seem right. Her gaze fell on an employee who was wiping the tables and chairs. His back was toward Lucia, so she couldn't see his face. She jumped when she heard footsteps come from the hall. Lucia turned around and saw Dalen, surrounded by his bodyguards. Seeing that Dalen was safe and sound, her heart finally felt at ease. When Dalen saw Lucia, he was slightly stunned, but he quickly covered it up. Then he ignored her. Lucia looked away. She was thinking about how she would explain to Dalen why she ran over here in such a hurry. However, Lucia's sight fell on the employee from before, who was just standing there. A cold light flashed in her eyes. Lucia was stunned. The employee held a gun, and the black muzzle was pointed straight at Dalen. When the gun started firing, Lucia rushed towards Dalen without hesitation. "Ah!" Lucia cried out in pain. She seemed to feel a bullet entering her body. Everything happened so fast. Lucia fell on Dalen's chest and looked up at him weakly. Dalen, who instinctively grabbed her waist, stuck his hand over the bloody hole. Blood was gushing out of the wound and staining his hands red. The stench of blood was thick in the air. Dalen's eyes turned distraught as he stared at Lucia. It was as if the one that was shot wasn't Lucia, but him. "Are you okay?" Lucia asked. Dalen scooped up Lucia and ran out of the bar. He got into the car and they left quickly. Dalen held Lucia, and the hand that was pressed against her wound never released, but the blood was still seeping out. Lucia felt the pressure of Dalen's hand and felt that the muscles in her chest were tensed as if they were going to break at any moment. "Dalen, so shot, so painful," Lucia whispered. "Don't talk. We're almost to the hospital." Dalen's voice was hoarse, as if he was injured. "Dalen, will I die?" "With me here, no one would dare to take your life," Dalen told her in a confident tone. "You have to stay with me." Lucia thought, still as controlling as ever. However, there was a weak smile on her face. Then she fainted. Dalen felt her go limp in his arms. He shook her shoulder. "Lucia, stay with me!" There was no reaction. Dalen immediately shouted to the driver, "Drive faster!" It was Spencer who drove the car, the fastest he could. If they couldn't save Lucia, it wouldn't matter whether they crashed or not. Finally, they made it to the hospital, and Lucia was sent back to the emergency room. Dalen was about to follow but was stopped by the doctor. Mr. Patrick, you should stay outside. Don't go in. She must be safe. Dalen's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. All right. The doctor knew he shouldn't make promises, but Dalen was so desperate. Dalen stood right outside the emergency room, staring at the door. It was silent, and the sound of his heartbeat could be heard clearly. Again and again. Spencer looked at Dalen's bloody hand, then turned around and brought him a towel. Sir. Dalen looked at the blood on his hand and did not move for a long time. It was Lucia's blood. Why had she thrown herself in front of him? Lucia, you better survive. Dalen stared at the door of the emergency room and did not take the towel from Spencer. Spencer did not say anything else and just took the towel back. Lucia felt that she was in heaven. The world was filled with white. She couldn't see anything clearly, not even herself. Someone had once told her that heaven was white and hell was black. She believed it. Besides, Lucia didn't think she had done anything bad. Except, she stole things. She smacked people with bricks. She even cheated on Dalen, which could be considered bad things. But in the end, she still was in heaven. Did that mean that she saved Dalen's life? Just then, she saw Dalen, her forehead furrowed in confusion. Dalen, did you die too? And you made it to heaven as well. You were not a scoundrel? Yes, I'm a bad guy. Dalen touched her pale face with his big hand. Her face was so fragile in his palm. As Lucia blinked, Dalen softly kissed her lips. Lucia's long eyelashes trembled. The real yet familiar touch caused Lucia's mind to gradually awaken. Her delicate lips were gently pressed by his, and his breath was hot and rapid on her face. She loved kissing him, but this wasn't heaven. This was the hospital. Lucia's face gradually turned red, and she was about to move away from him. Don't move. Dalen let go of her and stopped her with a low voice. But Lucia couldn't move even if she wanted to. She was held in place by a large contraption. Because she had been shot in her back, she definitely could not lie down. When can I lie down? I'm very tired. Lucia looked pitifully at Dalen. Endure it. I'll be here when you sleep tonight, Dalen said. Lucia stared into Dalen's calm but deep eyes. His words were so gentle and kind. Perhaps it was because the anesthetic had not completely worn off. Lucia was probably just imagining things. She closed her eyes, and Dalen sat on the edge of the bed. The staff brought Dalen dinner, but he ignored it. He only had eyes for Lucia. Seeing her wake up and speak was better than any meal. It was as if Lucia had filled his body with energy. Outside, the sky was already dark, but the moon illuminated the pair of figures in the room. The stalwart man gazed affectionately at the sleeping girl, and nothing was as important as before. Lucia slept until the next morning, but when she woke up, her body felt sore and uncomfortable. She wanted to move, but found that she couldn't. She cracked open her eyes and saw a pair of dark eyes staring back at her. Lucia looked at Dalen in disbelief. She was really sleeping in his arms. After a few seconds of hesitation, Lucia said, I don't seem to have slept well. What about you? Do you still want to sleep? Dalen yawned. Yes. Then go back to sleep. Lucia closed her eyes again, but long lashes were still trembling, which made it obvious that she was not sleepy at all. However, Dalen pretended not to know and just looked at her. Lucia didn't want to open her eyes. Previously, when they shared a bed, she had rested her head on Dalen's arm and kept herself in his embrace, sleeping so safely and contentedly. Although she couldn't hug him, Lucia didn't want Dalen to get up. She just wanted to sleep like this until the end of time. However, soon rumbling noises came from her stomach. I'll get them to bring the food over. Dalen's low and hoarse voice was filled with uncharacteristic warmth. Lucia's stomach had betrayed her. Lucia heard Dalen get up and walk out of the room, so she opened her eyes. She turned her head and looked out of the window at the blue sky. This is not heaven. She really was alive. Lucia thought back to the moment when she stepped between the bullets and Dalen. She had jumped in front of Dalen so fearlessly. In the car, she had really thought she was going to die. However, she still survived. Was she just lucky, or was Dalen's stubbornness keeping her alive? She thought about Bianca. That idiot. Lucia had told her that she couldn't kill Dalen, but she didn't believe it. Lucia's body felt slightly uncomfortable, but she couldn't move without feeling pain from the wounds. Just as she was struggling to get comfortable, her body was supported from behind. Lucia turned her head and saw Dalen. "Is this better?" Dalen asked as he changed her position. Lucia nodded. "If you want to move, tell me. Don't do it on your own." Lucia nodded again. Lucia was sick and could not eat solid foods. She leaned slightly back on the bed and Dalen held a straw for her. Lucia told herself that if she had the strength, she wouldn't let Dalen feed her. "When I'm strong enough, I'll eat by myself," Lucia said. Dalen glanced at her. "We can talk about everything after you've recovered." Lucia pondered over the meaning behind Dalen's words. What was everything? Lucia's heart was in turmoil. After thinking for a while, she said, "Don't think too much about this. I accidentally fell toward you. I didn't know someone was trying to shoot you. I was really unlucky." Lucia knew it was a bad excuse. However, after she said that, Dalen's face turned expressionless and cold. The difference between his expression now and when she first woke up was like the difference between heaven and earth. Dalen was truly unpredictable. "I want meat," Lucia said. "Tomorrow." "Just a little. A single bite of meat?" she begged. "Tomorrow." Lucia frowned as she drank the smoothie. Bianca ran away after she shot Lucia, laughing like a lunatic. She didn't really want to kill Dalen. Her plan was to kill Lucia, and she had purposely lured Lucia to the bar. However, she still wasn't 100% sure that her plan would work. She had to rely on Lucia jumping in front of Dalen to block the bullet. Fortunately, Lucia did just that. She thought Lucia was dead. Bianca was hiding in the alleyway, trying to think of an escape plan. She had to get out of the city. However, the road ahead was blocked. Bianca stopped in her tracks and turned around to run. But the road was blocked on the other end of the alley as well. Then Spencer stepped out of the car, looking coldly at a panicking Bianca. Bianca's face had recovered a lot from a plastic surgery procedure, but there were still scars. "What do you want?" she yelled. Spencer didn't answer her and directly ordered the guards, "Capture her." What are you doing? Help! Someone help!" Bianca struggled and screamed. Spencer looked at the struggling woman and said emotionlessly, "Mr. Patrick said that people like you are not worthy to stay alive." "What?" The color of Bianca's face faded. "I don't believe that Dalen would do this to me. He was so good to me before. How could he treat me like this?" "So what? You sealed your fate when you hurt the young mistress." Bianca clawed at her face. "I don't believe that Lucia is that important to him. Dalen should still have some feelings for me, right?" Bianca was so scared that her legs went limp when she saw the cold look on Spencer's face. She couldn't even stand up. She never expected him to be so merciless. During her recovery, Lucia couldn't do anything on her own. Dalen was there all the time to help her, but he didn't speak either. The air was thick with tension. Dalen didn't ask her again about blocking the bullet. It seemed like she would have to wait for her body to recover before he would speak. Since Dalen wasn't going to speak, Lucia wasn't going to speak first. She had to think about what story to tell Dalen. Cole couldn't get in touch with Lucia, so he didn't know what was going on for days. He finally went to Mark to see if he had heard anything. Cole pushed the door to Mark's office open and walked in. He looked at Mark, who was immersed in his work, and asked, "Do you know where Lucia is?" "Why would I know?" Mark asked. "I don't know. I think you must know." If Mark didn't know, who else could he ask? Mark stayed silent for a moment, then shrugged. "She's in the hospital with a gunshot wound." "What?" Cole wondered if there was something wrong with his ears. "Right now, her life is no longer in danger. With Dalen there, you don't have to worry," Mark said. Even though Mark said not to worry, Cole was still quite frightened. How did she get shot? Was it Bianca? It had to be Bianca, Cole thought to himself. "I don't know who shot her," Mark admitted. "It must be her. Why is she so vicious? No, I'm going to the hospital to see her." "No need." "Why?" Cole asked. "You can't get through to her room anyway," Mark answered with an astute tone. "How do you know?" "I think in order for Mrs. Patrick to recuperate from her injuries, she'll be closely guarded by Mr. Patrick. In other words, no one could go see Mrs. Patrick unless she is fully recovered from her injuries. So even if you go, you won't be able to see her," Mark said. "Then I just have to wait?" Cole groaned. "The most important thing is for Mrs. Patrick to recover." Cole was distraught, but he felt the same when he thought about it. Lucia's safety was the most important thing. However, it was so frightening, and Cole's mind was reeling as he left Mark's office. Where did she get shot? When John brought food to the hospital, he asked Spencer, "Is there anyone taking care of the young mistress? Why don't you tell Mr. Patrick that I can stay and take care of her? Is the nurse taking care of her?" John had grown rather fond of Lucia and was worried about her. "Mr. Patrick is taking care of her," Spencer answered. Mr. Patrick? This was good, John thought. Maybe they will reconcile at last. As far as Lucia was concerned, she would rather let John take care of her. Lucia had just remembered that she might be pregnant. If she was pregnant and she took the bullet, would it affect the child in her womb? Did the doctor find out she was pregnant when he rescued her? Then, did everyone know that she was pregnant? She tried searching Dalen's expression, but nothing could be seen. The doctor came back to the ward wearing her glasses. She looked like a capable woman in her 50s. She changed the dressing on Lucia's wound and examined her body in all kinds of ways. "You've recovered well. Now I need to pull out the catheter. It will be a little painful, so I recommend holding your breath." "Wait!" Just as the doctor was about to move aside the covers, Lucia stopped her. Then she looked at Dalen, who was beside her. "Can you leave for this part?" she asked. "Why?" "I'm sorry," Lucia said. Dalen frowned as he stared at Lucia. The doctor stood there and awkwardly smiled, saying, "He won't say a thing." "That won't do," Lucia insisted. Dalen turned around and left with a cold face. Lucia had purposely sent Dalen away. "Do you have something to ask me?" The doctor could tell what was going on, so she asked kindly. Lucia was stunned. If the doctor could tell what she wanted, then wouldn't Dalen see her plan? So she tried to ask her question as vaguely as possible. "Besides the gunshot wound, is there anything else wrong with my body?" "No. The bullet wound did not hit anything vital, so you don't have to worry too much," the doctor reassured her. "Apart from this, there's nothing else?" "Where else are you in pain? You can tell me. I won't tell anyone else," the doctor promised. "I can't trust you," Lucia thought. "It's nothing. Since there are no other problems with my body, I should be good," Lucia said. "Then I'll pull it out for you now." "All right," Lucia said. The doctor said, "Hold your breath." Not only did Lucia hold her breath, she even closed her eyes. She felt the catheter being pulled out all of a sudden, and then she felt a burning pain. "All right." Ugh. Lucia groaned in pain. The pain will go away in a few minutes. Thank you, doctor. Lucia watched as the doctor left. So she wasn't pregnant, right? Because the doctor would know about it. She would have seen it when she was in surgery. But then, why did her period not come? When the doctor walked out, Dalen walked over to her. Before he could say anything, the doctor said, "She just asked if there were other problems with her body. How was the inspection?" "No problem. She's recovered very well." Lucia's guess was right. The doctor and Dalen were in cahoots. If the catheter is gone, she should get out of bed and walk, the doctor suggested, before walking down the hall to tend to another patient. Lucia was still confused about her period when Dalen pushed open the door and came in. Lucia's gaze fell on Dalen's tall figure. "Get up. We're taking a walk," Dalen said. "Oh, I can get up now? Great. I'm tired of lying down all the time." Lucia was now sure that everything was fine except for the pain from the wound. Dalen went over and helped her sit up and put on her shoes. Lucia looked at Dalen, who had squatted down to tie her shoelaces. She looked at his thick black hair and was lost in thought. Lucia had never guessed that she would block a bullet for Dalen. She had done what she had to do, but that did not erase her terrible betrayal. Dalen held Lucia as they walked slowly down the hall. They were very close. There were still bodyguards outside the room, which made Lucia a little embarrassed. "Does the wound hurt?" After walking a few steps, Dalen asked again. Lucia shook her head. "It doesn't hurt." After a moment, Lucia asked, "Which of the two of us suffered more serious gunshot wounds?" "Me," Dalen answered. "So then, can I leave the hospital soon?" Lucia asked, thinking of the timeline of Dalen's recovery. "No," Dalen said simply, leaving no room for argument. Lucia didn't like the smell of the hospital, but there was nothing she could do. Even if she wanted to go back home, Dalen wouldn't allow it. Lucia once again thought of the ugly scar she'd won for herself while saving Dalen. "Dalen? Do you know any good cosmetic surgery doctors? Maybe they could cover up the bullet hole scar on my waist?" Lucia asked hopefully. "Other than me, who else would see it?" Dalen asked expressionlessly. Lucia halted her steps and looked at Dalen's face. When Dalen turned around, she stared into those dark eyes. What does Dalen mean by this? Would he see her scar? Under what circumstances? Lucia wanted to ask Dalen, "Do you not care if I have ugly scars?" She was a conservative person, even in marriage. Why is Dalen more concerned about this? In the end, Lucia didn't even ask. In her heart, she was instinctively afraid to face this problem. After returning to her hospital room, Lucia went to find her cell phone. "What are you looking for?" Dalen asked. "My cell phone." "Why?" "It's nothing. I'm just wanting to catch up on emails," Lucia said. "First, lie down," Dalen said. Lucia gave up and lied onto the bed with Dalen's big arms around her. He let go after laying her down. Then Dalen gave the phone to Lucia. Lucia was stunned. The pink gold phone was exactly the same as the one Dalen gave her the first time. Dalen bought it for her again. Lucia took it and asked, "Where's my cell phone from before?" "I threw it away," Dalen said. Lucia was puzzled. "You threw it away? Why?" "I threw away your phone and your bag." "Why?" Lucia was shocked. "They were cheap," Dalen said with a stern expression. Lucia wanted to say that her bag and cell phone added together also had cost several $100s. But there was no way to argue with Dalen about this. Lucia opened the phone. Everything looked exactly the same. Text messages continued to arrive one after another. They were all from Cole. Lucia recalled that she still hadn't contacted Cole, so he must be worried about her. When Dalen left the room, Lucia called Cole. Lucia? Cole asked in disbelief. I'm here. Are you still in the hospital? Are you okay? How did you know I was in the hospital? Lucia was confused. I couldn't contact you, so I went to ask Mark. Why are you... You were shot by a gun? It's all because of that idiot Bianca. She really wasn't bluffing. She knows how to shoot. Lucia's head was spinning from recalling the story. But fortunately, I was lucky enough to be okay. You don't have to worry. I can be discharged in 2 days. How can you be so casual about it all? I've been riding an emotional roller coaster worrying crazily about you. Isn't it exciting? Lucia asked. No, it's anything but exciting. I thought I'd lost you. Never do it again. My heart can't take it. Cole groaned. I know. There won't be a second time. Cole hesitated for a moment before asking, Has Dalen been taking care of you? Yes, Lucia answered, while holding a corner of the pillow. Have you two reconciled? Cole felt hopeful, but Lucia answered, No. Why? What are you being so stubborn about? Cole paced around the office anxiously. How do you know he doesn't care about what happened? Lucia asked. I see it. You can see it? Can you stop being ridiculous? Lucia had been with Dalen for so long, yet she still couldn't see through him. How could Cole see through him? Lucia thought about Dalen's reaction after she was shot. She wondered if Dalen would be so touched by her actions that he wouldn't care about anything else. But was this what Lucia wanted? Lucia slightly turned her head and felt Dalen behind her. When she saw him, her expression froze. How much did Dalen hear from her? Lucia immediately ended the call and pretended to play with her phone. Every nerve was paying attention to Dalen's movements. She didn't hear a thing and felt that the light in front of her was blocked. Lucia's hands were lifted, and he leaned over the bed and kissed her. Lucia didn't even have time to react. She still had her cell phone in her hand, and her breathing seemed to be stifling. Only when Lucia felt that she was about to pass out did Dalen slightly step back. They were still so close, only a millimeter away. At such a distance, he could come into contact with her again at any time. His deep and vast black eyes focused on her. Lucia could feel her breathing becoming ragged as she panted. Eat, Dalen said. Lucia looked at Dalen in confusion. Dalen really didn't say anything else. He just turned around and went to serve her food. But Lucia thought Dalen was on the verge of asking her a question. Lucia did not open her mouth to eat, and instead said, Dalen, I admit that I blocked the bullet for you, but I don't know why I did it. It's probably the same as me blocking a bullet for Cole. It's just a kind instinct, so you don't have to think about it any other way. Dalen's black eyes stared at Lucia. Their deepness seemed to drown Lucia whole. Lucia couldn't stand his suffocating gaze and blinked her eyes to ease the tension. She didn't know if what she'd said was right, but she wanted to say that to Dalen. She hoped he understood her intentions. Finally, Lucia heard Dalen's low and emotionless voice. Got it. Lucia didn't know what Dalen meant. Got it? It was also impossible to understand the look on Dalen's face. She could only open her mouth and eat. She still felt extremely conflicted in her heart. But wasn't this what she wanted? When Lucia returned to the mansion and entered the hall, she saw Edward and John walking out to greet her. Edward didn't show his emotions much, but when he saw Lucia, he seemed to heave a sigh of relief. As for John, he was on the verge of tears when he saw her. Mom, you've made us all so anxious. How could you get injured like this? I'm fine now. I'm sorry that I've made you all worry. Lucia felt a little awkward. She was still in Dalen's arms. There was nothing wrong with her walking, but she was a little slow, and Dalen insisted on carrying her, so she had no other choice. What do you want to eat? Dalen asked. Lucia snapped out of her daze and met Dalen's gaze. I want to eat pasta, Lucia said. Mum, you should eat some porridge, John said. Why? Not only is it nutritious, it will also help your wounds recover. Your skin will glow. All right, I'll eat the porridge. Lucia returned to her room and Dalen placed her on the bed. She leaned against the headboard and slightly tilted her body in order to avoid putting pressure on the wound. It had healed quite well, so she could lie down on her back for a while, but not for too long. It started to hurt after a while. When the porridge was cooked, Dalen brought it to her and wanted to feed her. Dalen, I can do it myself, Lucia said. You want to spill on the bed? Dalen asked, although he was not angry. Lucia frowned. It wasn't like her hands were injured. However, in the end, she was unable to resist Dalen. Lucia thought that he'd leave her at night and she'd be sleeping alone. But in the evening, Lucia looked over at Dalen, who was still in the room, and was stunned for a moment. Was Dalen going to sleep with her? Was he worried that she might have trouble sleeping? Lucia wanted to say that she could sleep by herself. However, she swallowed the words. In her heart, she didn't want to do that. She wanted to lay in his arms. When Lucia saw Dalen come in with the ointment, she felt a bit embarrassed. Even though she was discharged from the hospital, she still had to get the wound clean. Of course, Dalen would want to apply the ointment himself. Could Lucia say no? She wanted to, but she also didn't want to. She liked the feeling when Dalen's big, strong hands moved tenderly over her fresh and smooth skin, but she was too embarrassed to accept the same, and so she didn't. Although this time she had no other option but to accept his help, as she herself was unable to reach her wound. Lucia's face reddened. She wished she could bury her face in the pillow. However, her heart raced as Dalen touched her body, and she had to remind herself that Dalen was only helping her to apply medicine, and still hadn't forgiven her. Dalen focused on Lucia's reaction. Then his gaze fell on the wound. Although this was not the first time he had applied the medicine, every time he saw it, his heart would feel piercing pain, as if it was a wound on his own body. He applied the ointment with his gentlest touch, as if she were his treasure. Lucia felt chills every time Dalen touched her. It made her feel even more at a loss about her next action. After Dalen finished applying the medicine, he stuck the gauze on. Lucia couldn't help but let out a sound in her throat, a deep moan. She wanted to struggle and push Dalen away before her body betrayed her. In the next second, Dalen grabbed her hand and looked into her eyes. Lucia panted as she looked back at him, and she couldn't help feeling that she was so vulnerable. Why did you block the bullet for me? Dalen asked. Lucia didn't expect Dalen to ask this question again. She answered hesitantly, In the hospital. I have already said that. I want to hear the truth. Dalen was obviously frustrated. That is the truth. Lucia blinked her eyes rapidly to keep from crying. Dalen's deep black eyes stared at her for a moment before saying, I will find a way to hear the truth for myself. Lucia was shocked. Dalen gripped Lucia's shoulder. With a cold tone, he asked, What compelled you to take the bullet for me? Never do that again. Even if you see someone shooting at me, you are not allowed to block the bullet. Do you understand? Lucia looked at Dalen. Dalen, other people would. No one else. Dalen interrupted her. Lucia swallowed her words back. You will only have me in your eyes and your heart, okay? Dalen asked. Lucia felt her strength increase, and her gaze met Dalen's. But I messed up, she whispered, tears finally overflowing and running down her face. Let me ask you, were you sincere? Lucia bit her lips and shook her head. No, I didn't want to. I wasn't sincere. Lucia felt that she could no longer hide the truth. That's good. Dalen retracted his hands. Could it be? Do you forgive me? Lucia asked. She felt that no man would forgive what she did. I do. After Lucia heard the answer, she knew it was a normal answer, but her heart still leapt. I can't give up on you. Dalen whispered into her hair as he leaned forward and embraced her. Lucia's dying heart suddenly came alive again. She stared at Dalen, unable to believe that he would say something like that. Tears welled up in her eyes again. She heard Dalen's low and hoarse voice say, Lucia. Was this peace? Was everything over, finally? Lucia didn't know. Lucia rested at home for 2 days, and Dalen rarely left her side. Dalen was still as controlling towards her as he was in the past. One morning, Dalen was in the study while Lucia was sitting on the sofa in the front room, watching a movie. There was a pillow under her waist, and she was quite comfortable. John brought her food over. Madame, the porridge has been prepared. Lucia looked in the bowl and asked, Isn't this specialty porridge expensive? John laughed. Mr. Patrick would love to keep you fed and satiated until his last penny. If only you could. Compared to the money Dalen earned, this really wasn't much. After finishing her bowl of porridge, John took the bowl away and Dalen came out of the study. He sat down on the sofa next to her as Lucia moved into his arms. Is this comfortable for you? Dalen asked. Not quite. Let's change into a more comfortable position. Lucia sat sideways and leaned against Dalen's body. It was indeed very comfortable, and she wanted to stay like this forever. But Lucia's face was flushed as she watched the servants coming and going. She was afraid that others would see them like this. Dalen thought she was especially cute when she felt embarrassed and her face got red. He was very fond of her. Dalen whispered, You're wounded right now, so you can't move. Lucia's cheeks flushed red. What did he mean by that? Just sit there, Dalen said. Why? Lucia asked. I want them to see us together, Dalen explained confidently. Lucia's face was burning. Since when did he care about the opinions of others? Lucia didn't want to talk about it anymore. She held Dalen's hand as she tried to find another topic. Dalen, I want to ask Cole to come to the mansion to see me. Whatever you want. John ran to the kitchen to find Edward and whispered, Did you see that? Lucia is sitting on Mr. Patrick's lap. Do you think they've made up? Edward was also relieved, but he said to John, That is between them. We just need to do our own jobs. That afternoon, Cole came to the mansion. Noticing Lucia, who was sitting on the lawn eating some fruit, he ran up to her immediately. Well, is it like nothing happened? Lucia asked with a smile. Cole laughed. You scared me senseless. Fortunately, it wasn't too serious. Where did you get injured? Lucia pointed at her waist. Here. Is it already healed? Yes, but I still need to rest for a while. That's for sure. You have to rest more. John walked out. When he saw Cole, he nodded at him and said, Hello. Cole immediately replied, Hello. Then John turned to Lucia. Madame, your porridge is ready. Lucia said to Cole, Let's go and eat together. Me too. It tastes better when I have company. Then the two of them ate a bowl of porridge in the dining room. Cole looked around and asked Lucia, I don't see Dalen. Where is he? Probably in the study to handle his family's business. Have you and him made up? This was what Cole was most concerned about. We should be fine, Lucia muttered. What do you mean by should? Lucia thought for a moment and said, Cole, let me ask you this. If Dalen had an affair with another woman, would I treat it like it was nothing? I don't get it, Cole said. Lucia looked at Cole and rolled her eyes. Let me give you another example. If you married Jeff and you accidentally cheated on him, but Jeff said that he doesn't care, what would you think? Cole bit his lips but didn't say anything. Look, you and I have the same idea, right? Lucia asked. Cole's expression changed as he looked at Lucia and said, It's not the same. No? First of all, it was an accident and you didn't mean it. Dalen has real feelings for you. Shouldn't people who love each other just be together instead of insisting on being tangled up in theories? Or is it that you want to spend your whole life in pain because of your mistake? If I were you, I'd go easy on myself. Or do you want to give your man away to another woman? Are you that generous? Anyway, that's what I think. Lucia rested her chin on her hands and stared blankly ahead. She was thinking about that night with Axel. Why didn't she use all her strength to resist? Cole broke into her thoughts. Actually, I feel like the person with the most blame here is Axel. If he had left you alone, then nothing would have happened, right? He knew that you're already married. If he really said that he loves you, wouldn't he think about the consequences? Cole asked. Lucia stirred the porridge in the bowl with her spoon and said gloomily, Stop talking. Just eat. Lucia didn't want to talk about Axel, and she was annoyed at Cole. She felt responsible for everything that happened with Axel, and she just wasn't ready to talk about it yet. Of course, Axel was in the wrong. Didn't he have responsibility? She was obviously drugged and not thinking clearly. Neither of them noticed Dalen, who had quickly come and gone from the dining room. Cole accompanied Lucia, and they watched TV and chatted. Later, Dalen entered the hall, and Cole tactfully decided to head home. Lucia acted as if she didn't see the expression on Dalen's face, and pulled on Cole's arm, saying, You want to eat dinner here? I'll have the car drive you back. Then she turned to Dalen and said, Dalen, is Jeff still around? Yes. Dalen's expression darkened. Then, can you also call Jeff and invite him for dinner? Lucia gave Cole a wink. It was like an escape mechanism for Lucia to try to weasel out of this uncomfortable feeling that her conversation with Cole had brought about. She wanted to make anyone else the center of attention for some time. She knew Jeff wasn't the kindest of people around, yet she wanted everyone to get distracted by making it all about Cole and Jeff. Dalen took out his phone and left the hall as he made the call. Cole was extremely excited. Really? Is Jeff really coming to eat? Dalen didn't refuse. Jeff will definitely come. Just as she'd predicted, Jeff appeared in the mansion on time. When his gaze fell on Cole, his eyes narrowed. He sat down on the sofa as if nothing had happened and fished for his cigarettes out of habit. No smoking. Dalen stopped him. Jeff paused when he pressed the lighter, then looked towards Lucia. Lucia's gaze flickered as she instinctively looked at Dalen. She was nervous. Being around Jeff always did weird things to her mood. However, because Cole liked Jeff, she had to give an effort. I heard a rumor that you were shot, weren't you? Jeff's cold gaze fell on Lucia. Dalen remained calm and composed, even with Jeff's attempts to get a rise out of him. Are you hungry? Dalen looked at Lucia. Lucia nodded. Yes. Let's go. Dalen stood up, and when Lucia was about to get up, he gave her a hand. Lucia felt a little embarrassed to be so close to Dalen in front of the others, but his support was soothing. When they reached the dining hall, they all sat down to eat. During the meal, Jeff suddenly talked about investing in the shopping mall. Dalen pondered for a moment and said, That area is worth billions. You should consider it. Lucia almost choked. She couldn't even imagine that much money. Dalen noticed that Lucia hadn't touched her food yet, so he nudged her elbow softly. Lucia snapped back to reality and started eating. Jeff naturally saw their interaction. He then looked at Lucia and Cole, who were sitting near each other. "What do you two want to invest in?" Jeff didn't seem to be interested in the food in front of him at all. He was all business. Lucia and Cole raised their heads at the same time. Lucia chewed the meat in her mouth and remained expressionless. Under the table, she kicked at Cole to answer the question. Cole immediately came back to his senses and said, "I think it's great to invest in real estate." Jeff's lips curled up into a cold smile as he looked at Lucia. "What do you think?" She interrupted Jeff. "Don't ask me. I'm not fit for those kinds of decisions." Lucia didn't want to talk to Jeff any more than she had to. Jeff looked coldly at Lucia, but after a while, he started to eat. Lucia instinctively looked at Dalen's face. His face was expressionless. After dinner, Cole went to the bathroom. He had just pulled up his pants to wash his hands when the door was pushed open. Cole was shocked. When he saw Jeff walk in, he was stunned. Jeff slammed the door shut. His pair of cold black eyes gazed at Cole silently. "Do you need the bathroom? I'm done now. I'll leave you to it." Cole wanted to escape. However, he was pulled back by Jeff without a word. What are you doing?" Cole didn't think he had offended Jeff. "You don't know what I'm going to do?" Jeff asked coldly. "Just because you don't say anything doesn't mean that I can't tell. Nothing can escape my eyes." I really don't know what you're talking about," Cole stammered. Jeff sneered. He raised his hand and placed it on Cole's lower jaw. He raised it slightly and looked at him closely. "Although your appearance is ordinary, you aren't completely useless. At least Lucia's friends aren't too boring." Cole didn't understand what he meant. Cole had never been so close to Jeff before, and he had always been attracted to Jeff. He gathered up his courage and said, "I like you." Jeff was stunned. He didn't expect Cole to confess. Then he sneered and let him go. "So that's why I've been forced to sit at the same table with you so many times. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not interested in you. You can like me, but don't get in my way." Jeff turned around and left Cole standing in the bathroom. Apparently, he hadn't come in to use the bathroom. He just wanted to talk to Cole. Cole was really taken aback with his conversation with Jeff. He always thought Jeff was into him, if not in an obvious way. Lucia wanted to say goodbye to Cole, but Dalen carried her upstairs before she had the chance. He put her on the bed, and Lucia looked at his face and said, "I don't want to be impolite. I need to say goodbye to Cole." "No, I'll get the driver to take him back. You need to rest," Dalen answered. "My wounds have healed." "I'll decide when you're healed." "Aren't you being a bit unreasonable?" Lucia pouted. Dalen lowered his head, attracting Lucia's attention. "Yes." Dalen stepped back to look at her. Lucia's eyes were shining. "Am I not overbearing enough for you?" Dalen teased. "I could be more tyrannical towards you in the future." Lucia laughed and grinned up at him. "I'll get you a warm towel." With that, Dalen went to the bathroom. Lucia's heart raced as she waited. After a while, Dalen came back with a hot towel. Lucia closed her eyes. She felt that it wasn't a towel, but Dalen's love for her. But she still resisted it in her heart. There was something holding her back. She couldn't forget about what she and Axel had done. Was she even worthy of Dalen's love? Could she still give him what he deserved? "Dalen?" Lucia shook her head. Dalen comforted Lucia while wiping away her tears. "It's all right. Relax." Lucia was so nervous that she didn't know what to do. She couldn't relax. Her face flushed, and she subconsciously held her breath. There had never been such a long and excruciating period of time before. Dalen finally let go of her and whispered into her ear, "I'm done cleaning the wound. Let me just grab a bandage." Lucia didn't say anything. She tilted her head and closed her eyes, pretending to fall asleep. Only when she felt the pressure leave her body did she slowly open her eyes. Dalen said he didn't want to lose her, but it was hard to bear. She knew that she had let Dalen down. How could such a proud man accept such a wife? But she didn't want to let him go either. Lucia's eyes burned with tears as she painfully closed them. The next day, Lucia saw a missed call from Cole on her phone, so she called back. "I'm sorry, Cole, I just saw your call. I went to bed early yesterday and didn't get to say goodbye to you." "Don't worry about it," Cole said quickly. "I wanted to tell you something." "What?" Lucia was curious. "I told Jeff that I like him yesterday." "Really? What about it? What did he say?" Lucia was delighted. "He said he wasn't interested in me." Cole groaned as if he was in pain. "I think he must be blind." "I must be dreaming," Cole sighed. "Then you're giving up?" "No, I won't give up, but I was thinking about it. He already knows that I like him, and I can't take that back. Actually, I felt when I confessed that he would reject me," Cole said dejectedly. Lucia couldn't agree with her friend that she wasn't surprised. So she encouraged Cole. "Actually, I found out that Jeff isn't really a shallow person. He cares more about interesting souls." "Are you sure?" Cole asked suspiciously. "Yes." "But he didn't say that he was interested in me." Lucia didn't know how to respond to that. Cole continued, "Do you think he noticed me?" "Probably not. You have to let him know that you're interesting." After hanging up, Lucia thought to herself, "Yesterday when I went upstairs, I missed out on such an interesting thing." Dalen walked into the room. When he sat down, he took away the phone in her hand and put it aside. "What did he say?" Dalen asked. Lucia thought of something and said joyfully, "Cole confessed to Jeff." "He's not suitable for Jeff." Dalen frowned. "Why?" "Trust me." Lucia's glee immediately dropped. "So you're saying that there's no chance for Cole?" "Nope." Lucia thought that maybe if Cole just put in a bit of effort, but she believed what Dalen said more. After all, Dalen and Jeff were friends, so he definitely knew Jeff, and now she was getting to know Jeff better as a person. Lucia's bizarre encounters with Jeff in the recent past did bother her, but she was sure once Jeff found the right person to be by his side, he'd change. But how could she tell Cole? "There's no need to do anything. Let it run its course," Dalen said, as if he could read Lucia's mind. Half a month later, Lucia stood in front of the bathroom mirror. The bullet scars on her back were faded. There was no need to apply the medicine. However, the scar wouldn't fade completely. Lucia fooled herself by covering the scar with 2 fingers. "Then I won't be able to see it." While Lucia was muttering, the door was pushed open. Lucia's face turned red, and she asked Dalen, What are you doing?" "Have you washed up?" he asked. "Not yet." "No? Why won't you let me see the wound?" Dalen embraced her. Lucia blushed so much that she didn't even dare to look at herself in the mirror. She turned her face to the side and said, "What's there to look at? There's a scar. Why don't you think of a way to remove my scar?" "It doesn't matter. Even if there is a scar, I still love you," Dalen said in a low voice with a comforting tone. Lucia resisted, but she could not avoid Dalen no matter how hard she tried. She said, "But I don't like it. Or maybe I could tattoo a flower on it so you can't tell that it's a scar?" Dalen continued to comfort her gently. "You value beauty that much, Of course, Lucia thought. She frowned up at him. All right, I'll help you with the tattoo. Dalen's voice was deep and hoarse. Lucia's long eyelashes trembled as she asked, You will? I will have to learn how first. You don't need to go through so much trouble, do you? Can't you just look for a tattoo artist? Lucia was perplexed. And let someone else see you? I don't think so, Dalen said. Lucia looked away shyly. Dalen. The more Dalen got to her, the more muddled her mind became. I want to go to the office tomorrow. It's been a long time since I've been out. You want to go out? Dalen asked in a low voice. Yes. Let me see if your wound is good. It's healed, Lucia said. As she was talking, Lucia's lower abdomen throbbed in pain. Ouch! What's wrong? Dalen's body trembled. Lucia was dumbfounded. Was this her period? Finally! Where are you feeling pain? Dalen's expression was twisted as he spoke in a low voice. Lucia looked at Dalen, then pushed him away. You go out first for a bit. I'll be right out. Dalen, who was pushed out, closed the bathroom door reluctantly behind him. Lucia pulled down her underwear. There was really blood on her underwear. Amazing! She was not pregnant. She was overthinking it. Although the doctor had said that nothing was wrong with her body, she had skipped her period, so she always wondered if the doctor had missed something. Now that she had her period, her heart was truly at ease. Lucia almost burst into tears of joy. Lucia? Dalen knocked on the door. He could go in, but he was afraid that Lucia would get mad if he did. I'm fine. Lucia suppressed her excitement and opened the door a little bit. She poked her head out and said to Dalen, I want to take a bath. You can't come in. Are you hiding something from me? Dalen stared at her with his sharp black eyes. Lucia shook her head. No, but you're not allowed to enter. With that, she closed the door. Lucia's expression no longer seemed pained, but Dalen waited outside the whole time just to be safe. It was not until Lucia finished her shower that she walked out with a calm expression. I'm done washing. You can go wash now, Lucia said as she climbed onto the bed. Before Dalen was done in the bathroom, Lucia closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. Fortunately, Dalen only hugged her after he got in the bed and didn't try anything else. Lucia lowered her head and opened her eyes. She couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. The next day, Dalen let Lucia go to work. If you're not feeling well, tell me right away, Dalen said solemnly before Lucia got out of the car. If you don't tell me and I find out, you'll stay in the mansion for another month. I know, I'll definitely tell you. Lucia did not want to be locked up in the mansion forever. She was about to be sick from boredom. When Lucia entered the office, Cole was engrossed in his work. She walked quietly to Cole's side, saying nothing. Cole felt her presence and turned. Oh my God! That scared me to death. Cole was shocked. I'm not scaring you, I'm just standing here. Lucia denied it and walked over to her desk. You might as well have screamed. Cole held his chest. Dalen let you come to work? I'm fine, of course I can come out, Lucia answered. Dalen is so nervous for you, Cole muttered. Lucia didn't say anything. Have you and Dalen made up? Why do you look so unhappy? Cole asked as he looked at Lucia's expression. Lucia sighed. My period has come. What's there to be unhappy about? Cole was happy for her, but he could tell that Lucia was not in high spirits. Perhaps she was still worried about Axel. Cole continued. Right, well, don't think too much about it right now. If you feel that you owe Dalen something, then treat him better. How so? Lucia asked. Be more active in everything, Cole added. I have no experience with that. Lucia rejected immediately. She felt that even without taking the initiative, Dalen was already impatient. Why don't I teach you? Cole suggested shamelessly. Don't you have a boyfriend? Lucia asked. No, Jeff refused me. Lucia was silent. Should she tell Cole the truth? If she didn't say it, she would feel sorry for Cole. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Cole asked when he saw Lucia's unusual silence. What do you think of Spencer? Lucia asked. What do you mean? Don't tell me you want me to date Spencer. It's no use. He's not my type. Cole went straight to the point. However, Lucia debated whether it'd be better for him to chase after Jeff or Spencer. The phone on the desk rang. Lucia looked at it and picked it up. What's up? What do you want for lunch? Dalen's low voice sounded. Lucia glanced at Cole and said, I'll go out with Cole to eat. Dalen didn't say anything, and his silence made Lucia feel even more pressured. Dalen's voice finally sounded again. Don't eat anything junk. All right, I won't. After Lucia hung up the phone, Cole frowned at her. What are you doing? What? Lucia said defensively. You are hiding from Dalen. Nope. Lucia refused to admit it. Cole rolled his eyes. You go and eat with Dalen. I'm not hungry. Then I'll go eat alone. At noon, the two went out for lunch. Lucia didn't look before they crossed the road and a car narrowly avoided her. Cole, who was quick on his feet, pulled her back. What are you thinking? He yelled. Lucia was dazed for a moment as she stared blankly at Cole. What's wrong? Lucia laughed and said, This is exactly how I met Axel. But as soon as she said his name, she started to cry. Cole pulled her in for a hug. Dalen still hasn't let Axel go? Nope. Lucia shook her head, and she didn't dare talk to Dalen about it again. Lucia felt that no matter what she did, it would hurt one of them. Later that day, as Dalen was leaving work to pick up Lucia, he ordered, Release Axel. Now? The guard said with surprise. Dalen walked out of the elevator without saying a word. After getting in the car, Dalen looked out of the window with an indifferent expression. With his temper, he wouldn't hesitate to kill Axel. But then he would be locked up for life. And if that was the case, he would miss Lucia. After Axel was released, instead of going straight back home, he went to the hospital to treat his wounds, and then went to the clothing store to change his clothes. When the sales rep saw the bloodstains on his clothes, he was so frightened that he forgot to greet him. Axel smiled. Don't worry, I didn't break the law. The rep apologetically went to get some clothes. When he was all fixed up, Axel returned home. The servants were stunned when he walked through the doors as if nothing had happened. When Catherine saw her son, who hadn't been back for a month, tears immediately began to roll down her cheeks. You're finally back. I was worried to death. Axel comforted Catherine and supported her with his hands. I'm fine. I came back. Are you hurt? Where the hell have you been? I've been looking for you for a month. Catherine yelled through her sobs. It seemed that Catherine didn't know the truth, and since that was the case, Axel wouldn't tell her now. I had to handle some private matters. Even if you had to deal with something, you should still call your family. Do you know how worried we were? I know. I won't do that next time. After finally comforting Catherine, Axel returned to his room. No one could see the wounds on his body while he wore long shirts and pants. On the surface, he looked healthy and happy. As soon as he took off his coat, there was a knock on the door. Come in. It was Victoria who opened the door and entered. When she saw Axel, she smiled. Axel, you really came back? I heard something downstairs and asked Catherine, but I couldn't believe it. So I came straight here. It's great that you're back. We were all worried about you. Axel patted her shoulder. I'm fine. Axel, Robert and I knew what happened, but we didn't know how to save you. Victoria said, with a grim expression on her face. Axel was unbuttoning his cufflinks, but he paused as he restrained his emotions and said, "How did you know?" "I wanted to rescue you, so I stayed in the mansion and tried to convince Dalen. It was only when Dalen and Lucia were arguing that I found out what happened between you and her. However, I didn't tell Robert about this. He only knows that you have been locked up by Dalen and doesn't know the reason." Victoria looked at Axel, who seemed to be thinking about something, and said, "Axel, you really like Lucia. Otherwise you wouldn't have done that, right?" "Did they divorce?" Axel asked. "Not that I've heard. When I left the mansion, the two of them were very cold to each other. However, for some reason, they hadn't gotten a divorce yet. I don't know what the situation is now, but I haven't been to the mansion since I came back." "That surprises me," Axel said. "I was also surprised. I really want Lucia to get divorced so I can be with Dalen," Victoria said. Axel paused before he asked, "Do you think I went too far?" "No matter what you do, I will support you." "Thank you for your support." Axel smiled, then grimaced with pain. "Are you injured?" Victoria asked. "I already went to the hospital. They're small injuries. Don't let the others know," Axel said. "I won't." Axel really wanted to know more about Lucia. However, he didn't ask Victoria anymore. When Robert came back, he was delighted that Axel was home and peppered him with questions. Axel told him most things, but when Robert asked him the reason Dalen took him, Axel didn't say anything. Robert saw that he wouldn't get the answer out, so he didn't force it. That night, Lucia took advantage of the time Dalen was in his study and went into the bathroom for a shower. This had been her ritual every day for a week. Was she hiding from Dalen? Probably. However, that wasn't her intention. She just didn't know how to face him. She would always remember and feel guilty about what she had done wrong. Lucia finished her shower and walked out of the bathroom. Dalen was standing in the room with a box in his hand, but she couldn't tell what was inside. He placed it on the table and glanced at Lucia without saying anything. Lucia walked over to the bed after Dalen went to the bathroom. Her gaze fell upon the mysterious box, and she could not help but have a strong curiosity. She got off the bed and tiptoed across the carpet, making no sound at all. Then she opened the box. There was a pen inside. Lucia had never seen it before. After pondering for a long time, she was still unable to notice anything special about the pen. Before Dalen came out of the bathroom, Lucia had already laid back on the bed. Dalen walked straight to the box and brought it back to the bed. Lucia couldn't help but ask, "What is in that box?" "A tattoo pen." Lucia was stunned. More than a week had passed since the last time she had mentioned getting a tattoo. Lucia had almost forgotten. She didn't expect Dalen to remember. Dalen was really going to learn how to tattoo. However, Lucia was a bit apprehensive and asked, "How are you going to learn? Don't tell me I'm your first." "Don't worry. Trust in my skills," Dalen said confidently. Lucia wanted to trust in his skills, but when she saw the sharp needle of the tattoo pen, her heart couldn't help but tremble, because she'd heard tattoos were painful and now it looked painful as well. "Why don't we just forget about it? Anyway, I can't even see it from the back. Every time I take a bath, I close my eyes." Dalen saw her fear and said, "Afraid of pain?" "I'm not afraid of pain, but you should at least prepare me mentally." Well, Lucia actually was afraid of pain. "We'll start now," Dalen said. "I don't think I want a tattoo. I will decide later," Lucia said in a rush. "No." "Why? Didn't you say the scar was okay?" Lucia asked, puzzled. "Since you asked for it, even if you told me to stop halfway, I wouldn't listen to you." Once Dalen said this, his eyes became even more determined. To her astonishment, Lucia was flipped over onto her stomach because her scar was on the small of her back. Dalen also turned on the tattoo pen, and it made a buzzing sound. Dalen, wait a moment. I don't want a tattoo anymore. You're not allowed to give one to me. Lucia wanted to struggle, but since Dalen was pressing her down, she couldn't move. People tend to be more afraid of dangers that they cannot see. Don't move. If you move, I won't be responsible for what happens, Dalen told her. And this tattoo can't just be washed away. When Dalen's hand fell on her skin, Lucia asked anxiously, Dalen, will it hurt? How much? Will it hurt a lot? I put an anesthetic on your skin, so it won't hurt too much, Dalen explained. That means it will still hurt. As Lucia was speaking, Dalen started and drew a line. There was a little tingling on her skin, but it was tolerable, so her taut nerves relaxed. Dalen looked at Lucia's expression and continued to draw on her. About 20 minutes later, Dalen looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction and said, It's done. Then he got off the bed and put away the tattoo pen. So fast? What flowers did you draw? Lucia curiously twisted her head to look behind her. Dalen, are these flowers that you tattooed? Why does it not look like it? Dalen didn't say anything. When Lucia saw that he didn't say a word, she became nervous. What kind of a mess did you draw on me? Lucia hurriedly got out of bed and ran into the bathroom. She looked in the mirror. There was a word tattooed there. Lucia stared at the word Dalen in a daze. Dalen leaned on the bathroom door frame and looked at Lucia's reaction. You don't like it? Dalen asked. Lucia's face was warm as she said, You just tattooed your name on my body. It's not beautiful. She had underestimated Dalen's overbearing nature. Dalen didn't say anything, but approached Lucia. Lucia was almost completely engulfed in his eyes. Dalen lifted her face and looked at her. This word will remind you every now and then who loves you. The enormous pressure caused Lucia to be unable to breathe. How should she reply to Dalen? She couldn't say, I love you back, but she didn't know what else to say. When Dalen came closer, Lucia turned around instinctively. She felt Dalen freeze. Lucia couldn't bear the tension in the air and said urgently, It's late. I want to go to bed. Then she turned around and ran out of the bathroom. Lucia hid in the blanket and didn't say anything. She did love Dalen, but she betrayed him. What right did she have to keep his name on her body? Lucia didn't know what to do. She couldn't face Dalen, nor could she face herself. Dalen stood in the bathroom for a moment, then turned around gloomily. He walked to the bed and pulled Lucia up. Dalen was unable to gauge what was going on in Lucia's head. He felt as if she didn't like his name tattooed on her body. Why? Don't you like it? Dalen glared at her. Lucia looked at Dalen, tears flowing silently down her face. Or are you thinking about him? Dalen asked coldly. No, never. Lucia shook her head. It's just, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? Dalen asked. I'm afraid I might disappoint you, that I won't be able to treat you well. Lucia was worried about a lot of things. Dalen, why are we acting like nothing happened? No matter how much you do, nothing can erase the guilt. Can you understand my feelings? Dalen stared at Lucia for a long time before hugging her tightly in his arms. I won't touch you. I'll sleep next door, he whispered. Lucia's heart skipped a beat. No need. You can sleep here. Dalen didn't say anything. He just let her go and said, Go to sleep. Then he stood up and left the room. The room was quiet again. Only Lucia's breathing and her aching heart remained. Dalen really went to the room next door, but he couldn't sleep. He lit a cigarette and stood on the balcony smoking. It wasn't that he wanted to sleep here, but that he had to. Perhaps the closer he got to her, the more Lucia would suffer. Dalen could see that Lucia felt guilty, and even felt that she wasn't worthy of him. He was never this considerate about others' feelings before. It was different with Lucia. He could feel it every time she hurt, because he hurt equally. So she was afraid that he would touch her and bring back all those feelings. However, how could Dalen not want to touch the woman he loved? He wanted it so much. Dalen smoked until the latter half of the night, then went to Lucia's bedroom. He watched her fall asleep, then stood by the bed for a long time before leaving. Lucia woke up several times a night, but she didn't want to get up. To be honest, she didn't know how to face Dalen. Then, in a daze, she fell asleep again. It was almost noon when she woke up. When she made it downstairs, John immediately came over and asked, "Are you hungry?" Actually, what John wanted to ask was, "How did you end up messing everything up with Dalen?" "It's okay, I'm not very hungry." Lucia looked around but didn't see Dalen. She didn't know why, but whenever Dalen was in the mansion, she could almost feel him. John seemed to have seen through Lucia's thoughts and said, "Mr. Patrick went out after having breakfast. He wanted to let you sleep a little longer." Lucia went to the office after lunch and saw Cole hard at work at his desk. "Have you eaten?" Lucia asked. "No. Want to eat together?" "I've eaten," Lucia said. Cole was confused why she'd asked him in the first place. Lucia sat on the sofa and fiddled with her cell phone. Cole moved closer to her and Lucia said, "I miss you. It's been so long since we really spoke last." Lucia stared at her phone and spoke without raising her head. Cole shook his head. "You're holding your phone. You don't even look at me when you talk to me." "I'm looking at you," Lucia said calmly. Cole was frustrated. "I have work. If I keep talking to you, I'll lose my concentration." So Cole went to work and Lucia held her phone for a while before putting it aside. She wandered around the office bored, thinking that Cole should be finished by now. Lucia walked out to the elevator and bumped into Mark, who was about to go to lunch. "Mrs. Patrick," he greeted her. Lucia looked at him lazily. Mark was annoyed that he was being stared at, but he stubbornly smiled back at her. "Have you remarried?" Lucia asked. "Not yet." "Planning to remarry?" "Well, no." "If that's the case, then what was the point of that awful party?" Lucia said sarcastically. Mark didn't say anything, and Lucia didn't expect him to say anything. When the elevator doors opened, she went in, but Mark did not follow. Outside, the weather was cool and the sky was overcast. It seemed as if it would rain at any moment. After waiting for Cole for a while, Lucia left and went to a nearby supermarket to see if there was anything she liked to drink. However, as soon as she arrived at the supermarket entrance, someone stopped her. "Lucia." The familiar voice made Lucia's back stiffen. She turned around and looked at Axel in shock. "Don't you know me? Why are you so surprised?" Axel asked with a smile. Lucia looked at Axel, who was fast approaching her, and asked after a long while, "Were you locked up by Dalen?" Axel looked at the ground and clenched his fists. "Looks like everyone knows." "When did he release you?" Lucia asked. "A week ago." 1 week ago? Why didn't Dalen say anything for such a long time? "Are you okay?" Axel asked when Lucia didn't respond. Lucia came back to her senses and looked at Axel. She didn't forget what Axel did to her. "Do you think I'm okay?" Lucia asked, painful memories obvious in her voice. She used to like talking to Axel, but now she couldn't even bear to look at him. Axel slightly lowered his gaze. "That day, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about what happened that day, and I hope you won't force me to." There was no trace of a smile on Lucia's face. Her mind was full of Dalen. She really wanted to know, why did Dalen let Axel go? Was it because of his family, or because of her? Lucia. Axel was about to say something when he was interrupted by Lucia. Stop talking. I have things to do. I'm leaving. Lucia ignored Axel and hurried to the other side of the road. She stopped a taxi and got in. She had to find Dalen, so she told the driver to take her to Dalen's office. When she arrived, she saw how imposing the building looked. Lucia wanted to rush in, but she was afraid. She stood beside the gate with her cell phone in hand and called Dalen. But he didn't answer. Lucia didn't know why Dalen wouldn't answer her call, so she sent him a text. Dalen, I'm sorry, I'm outside your office. Are you here? After Lucia sent the message, it immediately started to rain. The raindrops dripped down slowly at first, then got heavier and heavier. Lucia stared blankly at the misty sky. The rain was like a shower, pouring down on her. She was completely drenched. When Dalen walked back into his office, he felt powerful. His cell phone was on the desk, but he ignored his calls and stood in front of a large window that overlooked the city being washed clean with unending rain. Spencer walked into the office. Mr. Patrick, Lucia is standing outside. Dalen was stunned. He turned around and glared at Spencer. Thinking of something, he reached for the phone on his desk. There was a missed call from Lucia and a text message. Dalen put down his phone and walked out of the office. Before Spencer even got the umbrella for him, he had already disappeared. When he saw Lucia standing motionlessly in the rain, his face was covered in concern. He rushed into the rain and pulled Lucia back into the building. Why were you just standing in the rain? Dalen asked, becoming angry now that he knew she was safe. Lucia didn't say anything and just threw herself into Dalen's arms. Dalen's body stiffened. His anger seemed to have been extinguished by Lucia's embrace. Lucia hugged him for a while and felt the heat coming from Dalen's body. Then she let go of Dalen and raised her head to ask, Dalen, if you're angry, I'm going to kiss you until you're not angry anymore.